there was a lot of waiting around in this movie too, and I was like, what are you waiting for? I'm waiting for the story. What are you waiting for?
Yeah, you're in the movie. You're supposed to be making the story happen. Like, do something.
Hi, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Dell.
And this is the Black Catch-Up, where we're catching up on iconic Black media we missed out on in our more conservative religious childhood.
Alright, so today we watched Loving, a bit of a recent one.
Yes, a very recent one. It's more of a biopic type of romance movie that's based on a real story. So as always, IMDb. The story of Richard and Mildred Loving, a couple whose arrest for interracial marriage in 1960s Virginia became a legal battle that would end with the Supreme Court's historic 1967 decision.
Alright. Alright, as usual, starting off with things we liked. You want to kick this one off?
Yeah. One of the first scenes I noted that I liked was the scene after Mildred gives birth the first time and they get arrested. There was something about that scene that I really liked. There's just the juxtaposition of her in this supposed to be happy time with her new baby and her husband, and then the police coming in and it all just falling apart around them. I just really liked that juxtaposition.
Yeah, I had the leading actress, Ruth Negga. I thought she was like really amazing in this one. Just like a lot of just her facial expressions during the whole movie. You really got to see, kind of like her emotion, what she's feeling. Like even in that scene you mentioned, like in that scene you do watch her face go from like happy, I just had my baby, to like hearing the knocks outside, seeing the commotion, and her just having that sudden realization like, oh shit, this is kind of it. Like I'm getting arrested. So I thought she did really good in this one throughout the whole movie.
I'm not surprised. We recently saw her in passing a couple months ago, where she had to give a great face in that movie too with her facial expressions. So, and she got nominated for an Oscar for this as well, I believe. But she was so good, and all the praise deserved.
Yeah.
The next scene I had, or basically anytime the two of them were talking in the dark of their bedroom, I really liked those scenes. I think for me, it just kind of like, they were the glimpses of when their relationship made the most sense to me, I guess. I don't know. I'm not going to say anything mean about the male actor, but I just those were the times when it kind of felt like their walls were fully broken down and we were really getting a glimpse into how they were. Once Richard comes back from seeing his friend and they say, you should just divorce your wife, and he's like crying on her shoulder about how he can take care of her. That was great. When they were first arrested, I think is the next time, when they were just like in the bedroom and it was like dark and they were just face to face, like, we're gonna get through this. Just anytime they were in the dark of their bedroom, I liked it.
Nice. I thought this movie had like a lot of good moments of like quiet tension. Like, at least to me, I didn't think there was a lot of dialogue in this movie, but I still thought there was like a lot of tension in this movie that they created just off. Again, like a lot of the scenes we saw were kind of either them sitting in the dark of their bedroom or like, them kind of like giving each other shoulder rubs after something happens. But I just thought like there was still a lot of good tension kind of built up throughout the whole movie, even without the use of much dialogue, I thought.
Yeah. I also liked the through line of Richard building a house for them. That was a good way to kind of measure the time passing and also just the state of how much he was into this relationship, I guess. Where it wasn't a thing where his friend suggested he divorce his wife. He was like, no, he didn't say that, but it's kind of, you get the implied no, because he's building he has that solid representation of his love for them. And I just like the through line. I like that. And she lived in the house up until her death, so that was just cute.
Yeah, that was nice. It definitely was like a beautiful kind of story there. Was he only building their house? Was that every time you saw him laying bricks, or was that like his actual job too?
I think it was also his job too.
Ah, okay.
If I'm not mistaken. Sometimes it was hard to tell what he did.
Yeah. I thought it was his job. I thought it was his job too, but I did also like how he kind of kept that, hey, like, I'm trying to build you a house, like this isn't just some like crush or whatever,
Yeah.
Okay, I think those were all the positives I had. Did you have anything else?
The last thing I had was the slight montage while their lawyers were in the Supreme Court. Just, they were talking about how they should be able to be legally married. And I'm not almost, they're just like us. Because they're just doing their thing. They're just living their life. Mm-hmm. And that shouldn't be illegal, that they love each other. Basically, I thought it was very well woven in together.
Okay. All right, I guess we're on to the negatives now?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I kind of had, I guess the one big thing I had with this one was I didn't think there was enough dialogue. I know I just mentioned, they had a lot of, quiet tension. But, I just wanted so much more dialogue from this one, especially a movie, tackling, a topic like this. Yeah. It felt like they introduced the topic, and then we just kind of watched them, quietly deal with it. I would have liked, the conversation the guy had with his friends where they're like, oh, you're black now because, you can't, but you can still get out of it. I almost wish there would have been more conversations like that from, various people in the movie,
Yeah.
But I feel like we just didn't get a lot of conversation to them actually talking about it. It's almost like a lot of the resolution of this happened off screen. It'd be call your lawyer, and then, you'd see the lawyer, they'd, have a couple lines, and then a lot of it would happen off screen, and, the court, then they'd be in court for 2 minutes, and ruling would be passed. But I just wish, with a movie like this and a topic like this, I wish we got to see a lot more just dialogue of them talking about the complexities of this issue, talking about both sides a little more. I just wish we got a lot more said in this movie. But that was probably my biggest gripe with this one.
Yeah, I also said this movie was way too silent for me. And as we mentioned, Ruth Negga is the lead in this movie, and she was also the lead in Passing. And this, in some ways, reminded me of Passing in that they were trying to do the whole quiet tension type thing. Only for me, similar to you, it didn't work as well. Just because this is kind of a bigger thing than what Passing was. Mm-hmm. Passing had its own separate thing where it was kind of almost a psychological thing. Watch our review on it. I'll try to remember to link it in the info cards or something so you can go watch that review. But this one, I felt as though they definitely should have been talking more, especially because the entire idea of who you want to be married to is illegal. And, y'all aren't having screaming matches? Maybe you're not screaming people, but at no point there was an even argument. I wanted more talking. Besides talking, I also wanted more court things. Like you said, a lot of stuff was resolved off camera for me, and this is based off a historic Supreme Court decision. They kind of mentioned it a little bit where when they were deciding to purposefully get arrested so they can appeal their sentence and going to the Supreme Court, they vaguely mentioned that this is going to change things for everybody, and it's yeah, let's watch the thing that's going to change everything for everybody. Come on.
Yeah, because I think the Supreme Court scene itself couldn't have been longer than a couple minutes. I don't think they even spent much time in the Supreme Court,
It was part of that montage. And we really only knew they were in the Supreme Court just because they kind of said it a little bit earlier, and we figured that's where they were.
Yeah, they kind of just kept saying, oh, if you win this court case, we'll bring it to the state. Then if you win that, you lose that, we'll appeal to the Supreme Court. And that was kind of we didn't really get to see the path. We didn't get to see them go through these court cases and kind of lose them and see that impact. It was kind of just us watching them just kind of again, silently sit there and not just be sad, but kind of almost I guess it'd be a little inconvenienced, I guess. Yeah, it really did feel like that,
Just watching them wait. Yeah. And I understand not everyone's fight is the same, and maybe they weren't having a climb every mountain type thing, but I kind of wanted them to have more fight in them. Mm-hmm. And that's not to be dismissive of how they decided to be as people, if this is true to who the actual people were. Just, I wanted a little more fight, especially because this was such a big Supreme Court case.
Yeah, and even if we don't get them actually fighting the case, there was also the little taste we got of the guy not being comfortable bringing it public kind of thing, or not being as comfortable being in the public eye with this case and not wanting to go to the final Supreme Court ruling. We could have gotten a lot more on that. Even if we didn't get stuff on the actual case, there was so much we could have gotten from this movie, but instead we were just watching them kind of sit there quietly with each other, just kind of again, just dealing with it internally almost, you know, but it's like, that's not really what I wanted to see in the movie. I guess kind of piggybacking, the other thing that I thought we didn't get a lot of background on either of them. And so it's like, we're not getting the case, and we're sitting here stuck with these two people that like, we don't really know anything about. There was like the car racing thing that I assume they might have met at or something, but like I knew so little about each of them that like, just watching them be a couple like wasn't enough for me to like be intrigued, and I'm not getting anything from like the trial itself, so like I just felt like I wasn't really getting much out of this movie.
Yeah, because I think that's why I like the dark bedroom scenes the most, because that was the times when I'm really like, okay, I'm kind of seeing why you guys are a couple, because there wasn't a lot of it everywhere else. And like you said, if they at least did so we don't want to go into court, fine. I find that fascinating, but not everyone's me. I definitely agree with you that we should have definitely seen more of how the court case is affecting them in terms of them trying to be the poster child for this movement. Because being the poster child for a movement is a lot. Like, it's a lot. This court, everything about, because they said something like, you know, if this goes to court and we win, it's going to change the Constitution. Like, yeah, it's going to change the Constitution. And being the poster child for a change in constitutional law is intense. Like, why are we not seeing that intensity behind the scenes? Why are we not seeing she's fine with them being on camera, he doesn't like it, but we get like one quick scene of that and then they're quiet and then we just keep going. Like, too much of this movie was internal, and if I wanted to hear about your internal struggle, I would read a book, because movies are for the visual external struggle. Like, that's why we watch movies, so we can get that visual of your struggle. If I wanted to read it, I would have just read a book on it. The last thing I had was I think the timeline of this movie was such a long stretch of time, and maybe that also did a disservice to it, because she has 3 kids. We kind of just jump to her being all of a sudden having 2, then pregnant with a 3rd, and then she has another kid, then that kid's grown. Like, so we understand this is taking place over a long period of time, but it doesn't help me get to know the characters better. It doesn't help me understand the court case and everything that you're doing better. It doesn't understand the strain that you have, because I believe her family's in Virginia and she can't go like see them or like be in the same state. Like, the long timeline of this movie, we've said it before on like Marshall and stuff like that, where if you have such a prolific character or like such a big thing happening, you kind of need to like break it down to like one aspect of it and then just show the full extent of that one aspect, instead of trying to do a kind of a watered down full story. I think that would have been better if we just maybe cut it down to just the Supreme Court case decision, or just the their first arrest or something like that. If we just cut it down to maybe one aspect of this decision, I think it would have been a better service to the movie, just because we went over such a big period of time and we couldn't tell that we were jumping time unless I looked at the kids.
Yeah, because they did look the same during the whole movie. Okay. Yeah, my last thing was kind of like a sort of a nit, but I didn't like the casting of Nick Kroll as the lawyer guy. Like, again, like, with such a serious topic, like, seeing his face, like, it, like, I'm expecting to hear him tell a joke, and so having him as that, like, serious lawyer character, like, it almost just made it seem like it was, like, supposed to be funny kind of thing, but it was, like, kind of a nit, but I just didn't like that casting at all, really. And even the other guy, I'm not too familiar with the other guy who was the second lawyer they brought in, but he also seemed like he could have been a comedian outside of this movie, too, so... Yeah. Both of them together, I didn't think worked well in that, like, serious role. But that's kind of a nit. Like, again, I like Nick Kroll, but just I don't know if this was the role for him.
I will say, I didn't think... I
don't know.
I didn't think he would make a joke or anything like you did. But every time I looked at him on screen, I was like, that's Nick Kroll. That's Nick Kroll. It was more
like, he has such like an iconic smile or, like, face almost that, like, I think that's what got me. So it's not like I thought he was going to, like, tell a joke, but it's like... Every time he smiled, I'm like, you look like you just told a joke, but like you didn't, you know.
You look like Nick Kroll. You don't look
exactly.
What's his character's name?
Yeah, so that was like sort of a nit for me, but
yeah.
I guess, are we ready for ratings?
Yes. I could go first. I gave this a 3 out of 5. I enjoyed it for the most part. And the acting from Ruth Negga was honestly wonderful, and it made me want to know more about them. So I think there's a documentary on like Hulu or HBO or something like that that I'm definitely gonna watch in the next couple weeks, just so I can learn more about them because this movie honestly fell a little bit flat for me. And the wonderful acting could only save it, but so much. It just fell a little bit flat, and there were different things that I would have done to kind of make the story a little bit more.
Yeah. Yeah, this one got a 2.5 out of me for pretty much, the same reasons. Like, I thought it was a beautiful movie, like, very beautifully acted. But again, like, I just didn't really gain anything from watching this. Between, like, me coming out not really knowing anything about the couple as, like, people. I didn't really learn anything about, like, the case aside from the fact that, they ended up winning in the end. Yeah, like, I just wish we got, like, a lot more out of this movie as well. Like, I think we could have learned more. We could have, I guess, seen more. This movie could have, like, been a lot better. Like, I think a topic like this, like, again, like, I think it was ambitious to try to tackle it, the whole, like, 10, 15 years of it. But yeah, I think it just ended up falling a little flat and kind of, like, missing a lot of like substance and a lot of, like, just detail that I think would have helped this movie and helped me at least come out of it saying, like, oh, that was an interesting story and I learned something. Yeah, so this one was a 2.5 for me.
Makes sense.
Final question: do you wish you saw this one sooner? I guess I'll go first.
Yeah.
Like, another kind of easy no. Again, like, an okay movie. Again, had this been a better movie, maybe the answer would have changed. But yeah, just an okay movie. So kind of an easy no for me.
I'm gonna say I wish I knew more about them sooner, but I don't think this was a movie to help me in that regard.
Yeah.
Where it's like, oh, I wish I knew more about, like, when we see things like U.S. versus Billie Holiday makes me think, oh, I wish I knew more about Billie Holiday. And I've, like, grown up learning more about her. This is something that's kind of like, oh, I wish I knew more about this in general. But this movie kind of wouldn't have helped me, so no.
All right. So that was Loving.
Yes.
YouTube housekeeping. Like, comment, subscribe.
Ring the bell for notifications. If you have any movie suggestions for us, you can leave them in the comments down below. We do movies on Tuesdays and Fridays. All of our socials will be linked in the description box down below. And we'll see you next time to catch up. Bye.
I cannot understand why the government's so involved with what people do and who they spend their time with.
No.
Like you're really out here, like, stalking these people's houses to see when they come back, just so you can, like, arrest them for just sitting there. Like, you know what I mean? Like, there has to be bigger fish for you to fry than people get
That's
married,
what I was, when I was watching it, I was like, the government cares so much about what you're doing, like who you're married to. That makes literally no sense to me. As long as it's consenting adults, literally nothing else matters.
Exactly, and, like, you're not disrupting any. Like, the only piece being disrupted is the cop showing up to my house to interrupt me, like, while I'm eating dinner. Like,
I was like, what is this? And I was like, this is so stupid. Then I was like, oh yeah, that was the U.S. government for so many years.
Yeah,
that's still them now, but still.
Yeah, no, it is. It is.
For so many years, they were like, you guys are married, and I'm like, so you can be married too if you weren't such a dick.
Yeah, like, it doesn't even matter. Like, it's a piece of paper,
Don't hate me because you ate me. Like, come on.
I know.